In the 90s, Trig Point was really aggressive surf spot. You're having fights every week down the beach. People would pull your bike to bits. People don't understand. Surfing was hardcore back then in Trig, and it wasn't a rich neighbourhood. When I was out on my own and I was youth at risk at 16, I lived in the corner of a shearing shed in one of the stalls. I lived off $37.50 a week. I swept the floors of the H2O factory down in Dunsborough. I slept on people's couches and I ate a lot of 2-minute noodles. You know what I mean? I used to freestyle a cappella at parties just for fun, just making up funny shit about whoever was around at the time, whoever was in the room. And people used to say, Matty, you've got to become a rapper or a stand-up comedian. It's your calling. I went along to a Public Enemy show at way back in the day. It would have been 98 or 99, and Downside opened for them. And I looked up at Scotty and that were rapping, and Shabazz and all the boys and Disaster, and I said, if I'm ever going to rap, it's going to be with these guys. I went down a few times and watched, and they were watching me watch, and they go, this guy wants to, you know. Eventually they passed me the mic, I did a rap, we had a freestyle and we had a cypher outside the pub. He goes, do you want to come by the studio and try and make something? My music, everyone was into it. They enjoyed the set, they loved it. And I travelled the whole world surfing, went to London and Rome and all those places.
3 songs I can mainly remember: Fridays, Accent, and Aussie Weekender. They probably got mad rotation.
It all happened really quickly. And at the time I was really unhealthy with drugs and that kind of thing. I was facing some charges. I wanted the rewards, I wanted the partying, I wanted the chicks. I wanted all the shit that went with it without putting the work in. Crypto gave me hope. I went from thinking, wow, I'm going to travel around, live in a van and be a hippie and never have anything. I went from having $1,100 to 10 grand to did it. This is more money than I've ever had in my life.
Welcome back. This is episode 159, I believe. This is going to be a part of the Osmetric series. For the first episode, I had a few other people in, or I had someone else in for the first episode. This is the second episode, and I'm joined by Matty B from Syllabolics. Mate, thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me, Jake.
It's my pleasure, mate. I have been listening for quite a long time. So from my recollection of what I would say the first time I ever heard your music or I heard you rap, it would have probably had to do with the 3 songs I can mainly remember: Fridays, Accents, and Aussie Weekender. They probably got mad rotation. But I think the first time I ever heard your voice was on Dundee L. And so that came out in 2002, I think. But when was the first time you made music?
The original Courageous song was the first song I ever penned, and that came out on Culture of Kings 1.
What year was that?
That was 2000.
2000?
Yeah.
We're looking at 25 years, so 25th year anniversary this year of the first song you ever made, right?
I never thought of that.
That's pretty cool.
Right. There are 25 years of making hip-hop now for me.
Mm.
I don't even count the years and look at the stats too much, you know.
Yeah.
Kind of busy, just busy all week long and doing what we do, you know.
Well, you've been surfing for a long time, and that's where, because did you at one point, were you a professional surfer?
Nah, I was a really keen surfer who wanted to be a professional surfer. I'll be honest, I wasn't good enough. I did a couple of Pro-Am events and just realised, hey, you're not good enough for this. I probably enjoyed the partying and that side of being around the surfing scene, but I do love surfing. I'm super passionate. I still surf now, and I'm a full-time surf coach now. I'm a head coach at Yelling Up Surf School, and I'm really passionate. When I was getting healthy and clean and off drugs and all that sort of thing, surfing was my saviour. So it's pretty natural for me to want to give that back to the youth. Plus, I've done some bad things in the hood too, so I guess surfing is a part of my redemption as well. The coaching side of it, giving back, giving to the youth, giving them something positive, and maybe getting them off the screens, you know, and getting them down the beach and out in the sun, some vitamin D therapy. So yeah, I think I'm way more of a surfer than a hip hop artist. You know what I mean?
But did that lead into it? Like, are they connected at all? Like, was surfing, obviously probably you started surfing first, but how did you meet someone, you know, that was into hip hop through surfing, or how did that
Oh,
connect?
because I skateboarded as well. So hip hop was really prominent in skateboarding. And we listened to heaps of hip hop. But I'd never met anyone from the Aussie scene. And I used to freestyle a cappella at parties out by the beach in Trigg and surrounding suburbs, just for fun, just making up funny shit about whoever was around at the time, whoever was in the room, you know what I mean? Or whoever was at the party. And people used to say, Matty, you've got to become a rapper or a stand-up comedian. It's your calling, you know what I mean? And I went along to a Public Enemy show at way back in the day. It would have been 98 or 99. And Downside opened for them. I was with a good mate of mine, Brendan Davis, who I grew up surfing with. And I looked up at Scotty and that were rapping, and Shabazz and all the boys and Disaster. And I said, if I'm ever going to rap, it's going to be with these guys. And then I just met them by chance 2 years later through a punk band friend of mine. My friend Corey Day was the lead singer of PC Thug. And that was all happening around the Hyde Park Hotel. I was facing some charges for claiming the doll and working at the same time. Typical surf bum, you know, trying to double dip. And I moved in with my auntie on Vine Street, which is right near the Hyde Park Hotel in North Perth. And that was the first time I grabbed the mic. I went down with a mate of mine. I went down a few times and watched, and they were watching me watch, and they go, this guy wants to, you know. Eventually they passed me the mic. I did a rap. Scotty took me outside with Shabazz and the boys. We had a freestyle and we had a cypher outside the pub on the pavement, and then I recorded that Courageous song a week or two later. He goes, do you want to come by the studio and try and make something? And at that point, I didn't even know what beats I liked rapping on, or I didn't know how to choose a beat. I didn't understand bars, syllables, anything, you know what I mean? It was just shit coming out of my mouth, really, you know what I mean? In a very organic way, you know what I mean?
Well, how would you find that how did you go about adapting your style to instrumentals, right? Because if you were doing so much a cappella, right, there's obviously a really big difference in how the delivery is. And it was probably pretty tough initially to try to, I guess, stay on beat and all those sorts of things.
No, it was better. It was easier because you had something to go along with. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Because
Because I can play drums, I can play guitar, I can play the bass. So I was already understand timing and music and rhythm. You know what I mean? So I just didn't know anyone with any beats. The Courageous beat, I went round to Scott's sister's house. He was Optimus. He was house minding, and there was a broken guitar in the corner. And I said, "Oh, let's try and get that in tune. I'll play you this little twang." And that guitar riff, that was me on Courageous LP. So we just twanged it in. Would have been like Fruity Loops. It would have been like one of the really basic production programs. And we put a beat over it. And then I said, oh, I was that amateur. I was like, is that it? He goes, no, we'll put a bass line on it. We can put horn stabs. We can do this anyway. Put a bass line on it. I rapped over it, and that was it. We submitted it to Culture of Kings, and they chose it. So
sick.
It all happened really quickly. And at the time, I was really unhealthy with drugs and that kind of thing. You know what I mean? So I wasn't settled enough to give 110% to the music. I wanted the rewards. I wanted the partying. I wanted the chicks. I wanted all the shit that went with it without putting the work in. Now, I got on stage last night and said, I hope you guys are all happy I'm here tonight. I missed my bedtime for this. I'm always been joking about being an older guy and, wishing I was at home. So now it's the opposite. I get up at 6 in the morning or 5 in the morning, and I do all my creativity with the coffee when I'm fresh, when my serotonin's at its highest. Or if I just get out of a surf and I've had a really good surf, it just flows out of me, and I'll just pull the car over on the side of the road and just pull out my notes and start writing. And then I drill my raps over and over and over, and I practice them and practice them. Then I record it, and then I go back and with the demo, drive around in the car and sing along with my own stuff. And then I go back and re-record it, and then I just sit with the producer and go, is this a finished product? Do we plug the holes? Do I need to do the whole verses again? Whereas Courageous LP, I just wrote it on a scrap of paper. There was bits crossed out. I could hardly read it. You know what I mean? There was no methodology or system to anything, whereas now it's all in notes. They're all labelled. You know what I mean? And I go back and I write the song, I record it, and then when I'm driving around listening to the demo, I go, hey, I've got a stronger metaphor with the same rhyme sounds I can fit there, and I refine it and refine it and refine it. A bit like, maybe a sourdough culture or cooking, you keep trying to get it better. Does that make sense? So I'm really disciplinary now, and I drill it, you know what I mean?
That's probably more effective for live performances especially, right? Because that's where like some people will make something and then don't drill it enough, right? And a lot of these guys end up having a freestyle halfway through sets.
But even for the studio, you're paying X amount of dollars an hour. If you don't drill it, you're not going to get it right. And then you're going to do a million takes and you're probably going to walk out unhappy. So you've got to already live that studio session at home in your room with the beat on your phone, drilling it till you get it perfect, working out where the breaths are, then go in and record it. You know what I mean?
Do you punch in a lot?
Yeah, I do on the difficult ones, but I can do them all live eventually. I'm not a naturally talented artist at all. Like Scott or Paul write a verse, Optimus or Draft, they write it, they can do it live that night. It's not like that for me. I have to drill it. I have to practice it. I have to practice it and I have to practice it. You know what I mean? And then I get it and then it stays with me. Do you know what I mean? But I have to really hammer it into myself. Does that make sense?
Did you ever have it go, I've noticed that back in the day you played at Big Day Out and stuff like that at some point, didn't you?
I just did a little show with Hunter on the lily pad. It wasn't really playing the Big Day Out.
I'd still tell people you did. That sounds cool to me. I reckon, you were still there, man. That's a thing that's not around anymore, so it's pretty cool. But I guess what I was getting to is, as you said about punching in and maybe when you're a little bit less organised, do you ever have anyone, do you ever have a show go real bad because you just were really badly organised?
Nah, I've always pulled it off by the skin of my teeth,
Nice. I love it.
But now, like, I wouldn't go and coach kids in the surf wasted or drunk. I don't do rap. I don't do live performance drunk. I don't go to the studio and drink or do anything. You know what I mean? Like, I'm all business.
Yeah. Well, as you've mentioned now, you have kind of come back in real hungry and you've got a lot of plans and you've got another kind of couple of things up your sleeve, and you performed last night, which I guess we should still mention. You performed last night with Downside and you had your own set. How long was your own set?
Oh, it was pretty long. It was 12 songs.
Yeah?
So it went for a while.
Did you play like any of obviously you've got you've had a fair bit of new stuff and, you've got Chronica and stuff. Did you play some of the old stuff?
Played 3 songs off the Courageous LP.
Yeah.
And I played the rest all Chronica.
What 3 songs did you play off the LP?
Courageous, Accents, and Fridays.
Accents and Fridays, like band, obviously those songs did pretty well for you. Like, you never get sick of them? You always still love playing them?
I love playing them for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I always loved Aussie Weekender. Do you play that much?
No.
No?
Not so much.
I don't know why I always really like that song. I think I like the beat, and hey, it was a good song to drink to. You know what I mean? I mean, we didn't exactly surf to it, but I mean, it's I think a lot of those songs, especially Fridays, that was one of the ones that people reacted to when it came on. It was one, to me, it's up there for me with, I don't know, for some people might consider certain artists, maybe Hilltop had, Nosebleed Section or Draft had Jimmy Ricard. Do you feel like Fridays is your kind of like song from back then that people...
for sure. And people at one stage were calling me a one-hit wonder, and I reckon that was justified, that criticism, because I don't feel like Simple But Effective backed up the Courageous LP really well. But now I've come back right all those wrongs. I think Chronica's a great record, and it's really hard to like your own product, you know what I mean? But I think it is a good record, but I think I can do better. I'm just trying to improve, you know what I mean? It's like you try to improve at surfing or you try to improve in the gym. It's just the same, like I'm just trying to get better at it and have fun with it, you know what I mean? So I'm really critical of my performances, but last night and I never say this, was a good performance.
You were really happy with
I
it?
only fluffed one little line. I remembered every line, and it was all on time, and there weren't too many breaths, and it was pretty good, the breathing. You know what I mean? It was up there in my top 3 shows.
Do you,
And I'd
do you
never
struggle
say-
breathing?
Oh, just rapping fast, you know, where do you breathe?
Yeah.
That's why you drill it, so you learn where the breaths go. And everyone who does it knows that. But for people who don't rap, don't understand the grind, you know what I mean? Like, to get it live, sometimes you write a song, you punch it in, and you go, I'm never going to be able to do that live. But then you drill it, and 4 months later, you're doing it live. But that's me. All my peers, they just write it, and they can do it live a day later.
Mm.
I've got to work for it, you know what I mean?
You smoke or anything?
Nah.
No. Did you back in the day?
Yeah.
Did you find that like it's a lot better now that you don't? Like
Yeah, well, now I swim in flippers for 5-6 hours a day. I've got plenty of lungs, you know.
It would help a lot. It's
at work.
Yeah.
Surf coaching. So yeah.
So when you were, I guess, having a break from it, and then you obviously decided to come back, like, we didn't really talk about exactly what happened around that period of time. Like, what is it that really brought you back? Like, what made you go like, oh man, I really want to make music again?
The boys kept coming down to Settlers in Margaret River and doing shows. Like Draft came for one, and then Downside had come for one, and I started to hang out with the boys a bit and show up at shows. And I was just in the audience going, I really want to be up there. You know what I mean? It was at that point that I knew, like, you've got to do this. You know what I mean? You've got to come back. And you know.
Did you start writing like Chronic? Is that kind of how that happened? You decided you were going to make that record, or did you just make 1 or 2 songs?
During COVID, Scott came down. He got an Airbnb in Bustleton on the foreshore, and we made Stella Joe, the track about my mum in Africa. We made True Love, and what was the other one? We made another one. Scott will remember, and then we kind of left them on the back burner, and then I went to a few more shows, like I said, and I went, that's it. And I think I just said, Scott, let's do a record. Let's actually do a record. And I went back and listened to all the Draft albums, mainly the early stuff, obviously, Brothers Grimm and Who Am I? And I just treated it like an encyclopedia or a textbook. Just went, there's so much to learn, and just picked up on a lot of tricks and wordplay and patterns and bits and bobs. And by no way did I reproduce a product as good as Drafts, but I drew a lot of inspiration from that, if that makes sense. And then Lazy Grey brought out that Underestimated record. Did you hear that?
I didn't hear that, no.
Amazing. So that really spurred me on. It was just 1 or 2 releases I listened to and 1 or 2 shows I went to. And I went, I want in. You know, I just was inspired.
Because you were living in Queensland for a bit, yeah?
Yeah, but this was all in WA.
This was all in WA.
I came back from Queensland in 2009.
Oh, so you weren't there for that long. I was
there from 2002 to 2009 for 7 years. I lived in Queensland. 2006, Simple But Effective came out. When I came home, I went to the mines and was off being selfish. So I worked in the mines for a year. Then I travelled the whole world surfing and went to London and Rome and all those places where you don't surf. I just did this big round-the-world trip. Then I came home, did another 2 years in mining. Then I bought my dream four-wheel drive, and then I became a surf coach, and then I started going to a few shows, and then I was like, I've got to start making music, and that was not that long ago. So Chronica was 2022, I think. November 2022. So around 2020, 2021, I just heard that Lazy Grey record and just went, that is phenomenal. I want to do something, you know, I want to make some art, you know what I mean?
And where did the inspiration come from for some of I know some of the tracks on there you were like talking about, well, obviously the one with Well, with Bias B.
Yep.
And so, talking about cryptocurrency and something like that, is that something that you were feeling pretty strong about at the time? And obviously COVID was kind of a weird time where that stuff popped off a bit more.
Yeah, I sort of played it to my advantage. I traded crypto for 7 years and I sold everything to get this house project going down in Vass where I'm building my home.
Wow.
And I paid a huge tax bill this year, but I got my loan over the line. That's why I went and worked in Rottnest. I've never owned a house, mate. I'm 51. I'm about to get the keys to my house.
This podcast is proudly sponsored by Studio 187 Tattoo. They're located on Guildford Road in Maylands, and I'm a clean skin, but if I wasn't, I would definitely be going to see these guys. They even offer private rooms to get tattooed in if you're not a fan of the open studio structure. You can find them on Instagram at Studio 187 Tattoo.
So crypto gave me hope. I went from thinking, wow, I'm going to live in a caravan. I'm going to travel around, live in a van and be a hippie and surf and never have anything. And crypto, I went from having $1,100 to 10 grand to did it. I'm not going to flex, but you know what I mean? Like it grew. And then I was like, right, and everyone was saying, you still got your old school guy, crypto's not real. You can't hold it in your hand. It's not gold and that. And I was like, well, I'll fucking sell it all and build a house. You know what I mean? That's what I'm doing. So it gave me a lot. I don't hold any crypto now, but mate, I'll tell you, those 7 years, I was going crypto crazy because is it going to crash? Do I sell all of it? Do I clear? This is more money than I've ever had in my life. Do you know what I mean? Like, and when you're 47, 48 and you've still got nothing, you don't own a house, you just own your 4-wheel drive and you've got all these surf travel memories, which are awesome. Don't get me wrong. Life experience is great. In the end, I sold all my crypto because I didn't want to blow the house deal. You know what I mean?
Mm.
But I'm gonna get back into crypto when it crashes next. I just want to get my house set up, furnished, landscaped, fully done, and then I'll start coming back into crypto. But I was going crypto crazy on a daily basis. That second verse, waking every hour, checking my phone, thinking, wishing, and hoping that my profits are growing. I was insomniac for a few years. When bull runs were on, when people were making money, it grabs hold of you, mate. Like you are waking up in the middle of the night and checking it. You know what I mean? In the end, I just went, if it gets you in your house and you can set the whole house up and have no debt and have money in the bank, it's a good thing. So I sold everything and I pulled that off, But I don't mean lots of money in the bank. I mean just enough to be comfortable, so when a big bill comes in, you can pay it. I lived hand to mouth for years. Crypto made me, car rego comes in, I'll pay it for a year. Bills come in, I could just pay them. I'd never experienced that because I went to the mines, blew all the money on travel, then went to the mines and blew all the money on a car. You know what I mean? So it gave me a lot of hope, but it created a lot of craziness. And even my mum was trading crypto and it made her pretty crazy at times too. You know what I mean?
I had a housemate at one point and it's the same man, just like had to have his, phone in his hand because it was always like, he'd sometimes go for a ride like on his pushy or whatever and be the whole time he'd be like worried, like what if I get back and it's dropped back down or
all that.
Yeah.
Go surfing and you're like wondering what's going on or you're in the studio, what's going on. It's been lovely to not hold crypto. I sold it last August, which was premature for sure. I could have made a lot of money if I'd sold it a bit later. But I got what I wanted out of it, and I think they're the rules with crypto. Only play with money you're happy to lose, and when you have an end game in mind, like an exit strategy and an end game, and if you reach that end game, have the balls to jump out and don't be greedy because, mate, you think, it's going to go to 1 million, you know what I mean? Or I'll just hold on, and then it might crash and it's crazy. It's a wave of emotion, you know what I mean? Everyone wants to live, without poverty. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, especially if that's where you kind of came from too, right? Like if you didn't grow up with a bunch of money, like Matt, you don't even have to be dirt poor to still want that.
I grew up by the beach with really good parents, but I couldn't do schoolwork and I was uncontrollable and had a lot of anger issues. So my relationship fell down with my parents because I didn't keep up my end of the bargain. That's why I ended up on the street. So I'm not from the hood or from any real poverty. I grew up, real good dad who had a boat with cray pots and we're fishing, and he was spear fishing and I was surfing. I had an amazing childhood, but I had a chip on my shoulder by the time I was 15. You know what I mean? Over my parents' divorce and just blaming other people. I was in that immature mindset of it's everyone else's fault. You know what I mean? And when I went to counselling with my dad, we reconciled. The main thing I gleaned from the counsellor was everything that happens in your life is your fault. And once you stop blaming other people and take ownership of the issues and address them and beat them, that's when you start to feel successful emotionally, mentally, physically as a human being. Does that make sense?
Yeah, man, I agree.
But I don't want people to think I'm from Western Sydney or some gnarly place, because I'm not. I'm from Trig Beach in Perth,
Sounds pretty good.
It's an amazing childhood. But it was a school of hard knocks place back then. In the 90s, Trig Point was really aggressive surf spot. You're having fights every week down the beach. People would pull your bike to bits and go hide it in the bush, and you'd get your bike back in 3 bits over the next course of the week. Your mum would be going, "Where's your bike? You can't ride to school." Oh, the older surfers, people don't understand. Surfing was hardcore back then in Trig, and it wasn't a rich neighbourhood. You know what I mean? It was a small surfing and fishing place, and skating and heavy. I was into metal and punk, and it was a gnarly place. It was more like Venice Beach in California. You know what I mean? With that gritty sort of beachside place. Now it's fully gentrified. Well, now it's just out of control for rich people.
Yeah, people got a lot of money.
They knocked down all the old houses that we used to rent and party in, and now there's all mansions there. You know what I mean?
Mm.
But if I ended up in the streets, it was my own fault. I always say that. I have to say that to credit my parents. You know what I mean? Because they're really good people, and I have a really good relationship with them now. So I don't want anyone to think I'm from the hood. I'm not. I'm from the beach. I say it in my music.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, I think it still comes from obviously obviously they raised you right, you're able to appreciate money, right? Which is probably where that thing comes from. That's why you were able to pull out and set yourself up, because you valued it. You were, you weren't greedy because you knew what you wanted, right? And like owning a house, I mean, that's kind of on most people's list, right? It kind of should be.
The great Australian dream is to have, be mowing your own lawn and
and you're down
your own veggies. And I've rented some great places and grown some food. I rented a farm for 5 years down south that I called the Matty compound. But then COVID hit and there was no rentals. Anyone who owned a rental wanted to rent their own workforce in that rental. And I didn't work for the person I rented off. So that was what COVID did. But to give you some context about coming from nothing, when I was out on my own and I was youth at risk at 16, I lived in the corner of a shearing shed in one of the stalls, and I got $75 youth allowance a fortnight. And that was it. I lived off $37.50 a week from the government. I swept the floors of the H2O factory down in Dunsborough. I slept on people's couches and I ate a lot of 2-minute noodles. You know what I mean? And a lot of food that's so processed and so bad that I would never even consider putting in my body now. Was when you're 20, when you're 19, 16, 15, 17, your body just processes all that crap. You know what I mean? You're impenetrable. But so I have slept in the toilets because I had nowhere to go. I have experienced that street life, but it was because I couldn't keep up my end of the bargain of being a good son, a good student at school, and my behaviour, my anger, you know what I mean, related to the breakup of my parents, you know what I mean? I was blaming other people. Once you stop blaming other people, that's when life gets really good. Because it's just you and whatever you want to do. The world's your oyster. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the people are listening. This is inspiring for a lot of people, man, because people don't keep it that simple.
I've been involved with, I'll say it, using needles and gone to some pretty low places. But if you never rip your friends off, which I never got into owing people money or stealing off people, or if you keep your honour within that street structure, that carries when you become a legitimate person. The same, you have the same morals. Do you know what I mean? So all my friends I was ever friends with, I'm still friends with. I haven't burned any bridges. Does that make sense?
Mm.
Whereas some people get that addicted, they'll steal off you, they'll steal off their mates, they'll steal off anyone. You leave something there, they'll take it when they come around your house for a party. Whereas I never got that bad because of surfing. I'd be like, wow, I'm doing too much drugs. This is getting hold of me. I'm going to go surf. I'm going to take a surf trip. I'm going to go camping. I could always go back to surfing. Surfing always saved me. You know what I mean? From that negative scene. So that's why I'm a surf coach. It's natural to give that back to as much child, teenager, and adult, as many people as possible. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, hoping in a way that it can do for them what it did for you, right?
But I know what it's like to have nothing and have nowhere to go. And all your parents, all your mates' parents have banned you from coming around the house. I know that feeling of being really alone. You know what I mean? And it didn't need to be that way, you know, because all I had to do was keep up my end of the bargain, but I was selfish, you know.
So what about when you listen to the music you made back, you know, in that period of time? Do you feel like, is some of it harder to listen to or harder to
do ADI live?
No?
Out of respect for my parents, I said some horrible things in that song, and I'm still really embarrassed about that song because my relationship's so strong with all four of my parents, my mum and her partner, my dad and his partner. We're all such good mates. All parties are really upset by that song, me writing and releasing that song. So out of respect for them now, I never do it live. I just won't do it live. And you know.
It's hard, I suppose, because that's kind of what that's what hip hop is, right? It's how you felt at the time. So that you're always going to have a little bit of that, but it's good that you can still be proud of the record at least, because there's obviously a lot of stuff on there that is good.
I think it's a great track. And I think ADI, the things I said were really relevant. Like, we should not prescribe kids drugs. They should be doing exercise. All you got to do, if you've got a kid with too much energy, if you've got a blue heeler or a border collie, you take it down the beach, you throw the stick for 2 hours. It's pretty basic. You give it enough endorphin release and enough exercise, and you're a personal trainer, you get this, that they're worn out, and then you try to give them discipline and direction. And as children, we're a lot like, this sounds terrible, it's like training a dog. You know what I mean? Like giving them medication and pigeonholing them and having them run around and go, I've got mental illness, I'm anxious, I need a Valium, I need a Xanax. That's ridiculous. Tire yourself out. You know what I mean? Try thinking a negative thought. And you know this because you're a personal trainer. Try having a negative thought for the hour after you've exercised hard. 2 hours surf, mate, I'm just the happiest guy. And if I get a barrel, I'm happy if I get a good tube, I'm happy for the week. The afterglow is phenomenal. Do you know what I mean? So I think there's too much pigeonholing, too much American pharmaceuticals being prescribed, and that was what I was saying in ADI. But I just think in the first verse, things I said about my parents were really personal, and I shouldn't have said those things. And it was immature and selfish and hurtful for me to have said that. And Eminem was doing that. He was dissing his mum and talking about throwing his girlfriend off the end of the bridge. And I was immature, you know what I mean? But I have enough emotional maturity now to understand that these are the rocks in my life. These are the people that have stood by me, and it's the support network that helped me come from heavy drug use back to being a surf coach and a healthy person and a role model within my community. It was because of their love and my friends. It was because of my whole support network and framework. That's why I made it back. You know what I mean? And I'm not addicted anymore. So it's tough. ADI is a really tough song for me. I try to forget about it. But I do think the issues I raised about an overdiagnosed condition in a profit-based system, kids, what are they giving them? Brain-numbing shit like Ritalin. That verse is better flow, better pattern, and better content, that third verse. You know what I mean? I think that addressed a lot of issues, and I think they still need to be addressed. You can't just pull out a prescription pad and start solving problems.
I think it's worse now, really, right? Antidepressants.
Way worse,
Yeah.
mate.
Yeah, antidepressants, I've heard them prescribed for all different kind of strange reasons. I think it's very strange. I've had them prescribed and personally not taken them. It doesn't work for me. So, maybe some people do need them. Maybe things are that bad. I don't know. It's really, I'm not a doctor, but yeah.
I got to go on Triple J at 9 a.m. with Dr. Carl because they were impressed by that song, and
Really?
they wanted my thoughts on ADD. And I just said exercise, healthy food, avoid food allergies, vitamin D, get kids outside, get them to build self-esteem, forget about pharmaceuticals, forget about big pharma and doctors. You know what I mean?
Mm.
I don't hate doctors. There's lots of lovely doctors out there doing great work, and they work in triage and in trauma. Like, I've injured myself and had to go straight in and get fixed up. And there's some great medical practitioners out there. But I think the pharmaceutical industry is pretty evil. And you watch shows. I don't know if you've seen that show called Dope Sick.
No, yeah.
It's about the OxyContin crisis in America.
Yeah, they made a show called Painkiller.
Yeah, and it's, it's not the answer, mate,
Mm. Well, it's the answer for them to make big money, I suppose. But I agree with you, man. It's like ADHD, or ADD is, you get a lot more now, and people talk about it now and go, maybe I've got ADD, and they say stuff like this, but this comes back to the phones and stuff like that. Some people say to me, maybe I've got ADD, and I'm like, maybe your head's buried in your phone so often that you got
exercise.
Yeah, but you also you can't pay attention to anything because you're so focused on everything.
And then there's the doom scroll, clips when you scroll, they're so short. So scrolling's created a real short attention span.
Mm.
I get caught up in it.
Bad, yeah. It's
I
hard.
want to scroll and just see one wave at Pipeline and then another one in Africa and then all this surfing. A lot of my feed's surfing, you know what I mean? But then I'm like, but you never sit down and watch a whole movie right through anymore. You know what I mean? So now sometimes I try to put a ban on myself. No scroll for an hour and a half, for 2 hours when I'm having downtime.
Yep.
Everything's so addictive.
It also puts a bad relationship. It can create a bad relationship with the ride. Because surfing, for example, isn't just barrels, right? You've got the calm in between, and it's an experience, right? So the problem with that is if all you're doing is flogging barrels the whole time, for a lot of people, this is just, I guess, an analogy, but people will only look at those highlights, and then eventually when they go to experience something, like I said with the movies, I'll see a funny 15-second clip from the movie or the barrel, but it's not like that the whole way through, so people can't sit and enjoy it anymore.
Yeah, well, like the big airs and that, they show you the ones they make.
Mm.
They don't show you the 20 attempts.
Yeah.
And they don't show you the one where they blow their ACL out either. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's interesting. Yeah.
I think it's an interesting topic. Do you think that you're going to address a lot more, we'll see a lot more of that in your new stuff? Do you think you'll continue now because of how you're feeling about a lot of this stuff and technology and things like that? Is that a lot to do with your new kind of content?
The record I'm making at the moment's about post-COVID depression, financial and otherwise. There's not so much about the internet and social networking. I kind of addressed that on Chronica with a few little lines, like a line in Black Swan Chronicle. I think this album's more about the fallout after COVID and how many people can't get a rental, can't afford food, people can't live. They're making it hard. They're dividing the rich, and our middle class is dissolving, and we've got people who are there and people who've got nothing. There's families living in their cars, bro. You know what I mean?
It's pretty bad, yeah. Down here, the beachfront's bad, yeah.
Yeah, and in Hawaii, when I went to the North Shore, there's so many homeless living in tents. And you really, really realize, wow, this is one of the United States of America, because the homelessness is so prominent in Hawaii. Now what I saw in Hawaii in 2013, I'm seeing here now, when I didn't used to see that here. I watched the whole landscape change. When I'm rapping about social commentary and social injustice and poverty, I'm not rapping for people like me who have lived in front of world-class waves all his life. I'm rapping for people from Punchbowl, from Redfern, from the Dandenong, from the end of the train lines on the East Coast who are in these Babylon systems living, they don't have a hope in hell. You know what I mean?
Mm.
There's no opportunity for them. You know what I mean? So this album's about that, about how the opportunities are waning, you know?
Yeah, okay.
So there's a song about inflammation that's about, to play on words, the inflammation stage of COVID. Oh, you're going to choke and you're going to die. You know what I mean? It's going to become inflamed and you're going to get short of breath, you know? But
From
and I'm talking
from
about,
COVID?
that was one of their scare tactics.
Yeah.
But inflammation's more about taxation, inflation, no one can afford anything, you know, that sort of thing.
Did you get the jab?
No,
No?
of course not.
Yeah. I suppose you had.
But I've got no problem with people getting a jab if it makes them feel good. I respect people's right to feel like they're in a safe space and they're right. I'm pro-choice. And I hate it when you go out for a lunch with mates and there's one anti-vaxxer who just won't shut up about the vaccine, just ruins the lunch. Yeah. I've had to pull friends up and go, I hope you're proud of yourself. You ruined lunch. Like talking to my friends like they're children. You made a scene. Everyone was having a nice time. Think that. It's like I've got friends that go down the rabbit hole too much. Babylon is not a conspiracy theory record. I'm not talking about Hollywood people drinking the blood of children or any of that cray because there's so much rabbit hole stuff. All I'm talking about is what I'm seeing, the homelessness, the inflated price of everything, you know, since COVID. You know, there's lines like, you won't catch Matt coming back from the vax clinic. Just little lines, you know, little lines. But I don't want to be a rabbit holer or a conspiracy theorist.
Oh yeah, it can get pretty wild. I've had some pretty interesting conversations with people where like we talk about this and I'm a bit, I'm more on board and I'm like, oh yeah, I can see that. And then other topics get brought up and you start to go,
it's just
don't know about that. That's pretty, out there, It's
just too negative. There's so many good things. Food is great. Wine is great. Coffee is great. Sleep-ins are great. Hot showers are great. Going surfing is great. Having a barbecue in front of the beach with the sun setting is great. There's so many good things to focus on. We don't have to focus on the negative in our everyday lives. But when you get in the rap booth, fucking let it go, man. This is the time to fight, to stick it to the man. You know what I mean? When you get behind that pop screen, that's the time. That's where I do all my venting, all my anger. Everything that frustrates me about society comes out in a record.
This podcast is sponsored by Achievement Apex. Achievement Apex creates some of the best barbells in the world, and they supply some of these barbells to some of the strongest powerlifters and athletes in the world. If you want an Achievement Apex barbell, you can go to achievementApex.com and use the code PORTAPOTTY for 10% off any order that you make. Do you have a favourite song or a favourite line from Chronica that you felt like was something that really kind of stuck with you or something that was really hard-hitting for you? Maybe just a track that you really enjoyed?
Rhyme Rebel.
Yeah.
There's just a few lines in there about, kids who are struggling, and just it's kind of, it's a funny song, but a serious song at the same time. Because you got to have punchlines, you know what I mean? I would like to see me eventually, and it might take another few albums, not be so angry and not so, you know what I mean? But I love it. I love that outlet of being anger. But like in a perfect world, and this may never happen, I would completely reggae-fy my music. So I'd rap double time, really good patterns, double and single time alternating over reggae beats, super positive messages about love, about unity, about striving together, but without ever being pretentious, like no Jamaican accents, no trying to be a Jamaican when you're not a Jamaican. My mum's from Kenya, she's French, African, Sicilian. She's a mixed race. But I would never want my music to come. I still want it to have that Aussie sound, that Aussie accent. But it'd be nice to just make some happy music, Jake, For once in my fucking life, make some happy music. I'll be so angry about everything all the time.
I never took it, that serious, but I can relate to it, man. As I said to you before, that's why I couldn't get back into it, because my relationship with it was that. And I didn't like how it made me feel now, because I felt like the only time I just always rap really aggressive. My delivery was aggressive, and I didn't really know how to not do that. And I think that
The easiest songs to write are the angry ones.
Yeah.
They just pour out of you.
Yeah.
Right?
It's a hard one.
It takes a lot more skill to be positive,
Who do you think that you work with that brings that out in you, like the positive side of things?
And humour. I've never really tapped into much humour.
Oh, you
But
I
I can be a really funny guy socially. And Mum goes, when you're in a room, you make people laugh, but when you rap, you're so fucking angry. And my friends say it too, not just my mum, my friends, all my peers are like, I want to see some of that humour in the music,
You do a lot of collabs with, like, obviously a lot of the guys from SBX and other people and stuff, though. Is there someone that you feel like that you make music with that brings a little bit more of that out in you, though, where,
someone Draft's really positive and he's really, a lot of people say he raps about, some people might say, not a lot of people, that he raps about his feelings too much. But I think he's got a really good blend of humour, and I think his music's very cathartic in a real positive and healthy way. I get a lot from what Paulie does,
Well, you made a song for Chronica, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so is it, but I guess when you work with different people, do you work together, or is it a lot of the time separately and then you just record together? Probably different with a lot of different people, but...
You may not even record together. You may just send them the verse and the beat.
Okay.
With the beat's made, then you write your verse, you record that, and then you send them that as a guide, and then they send you a verse, and then you start mixing it. And
well, you're both busy and stuff, I guess, these days. But back in the day, was there kind of rooms where you guys were all writing in?
Back in the day, yeah, we're all getting together and
you just wrote together.
Not wrote together, but recorded together.
Yeah. Okay. Is it because, I mean, like you had
it's not that good for recording. You're better off going in on your own.
You reckon?
Working with a producer one-on-one. It's way more efficient. It's way more, you get more work done. It's just more counterproductive. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
I mean, it's more productive, not counterproductive. Having all your mates there and having a good time can be a bit counterproductive. You know what I mean?
Especially back then, probably, right? With the beers were getting around and
everything.
Yeah.
Everything that was getting around.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite track that you did either with the crew or do you have a favorite collaboration? Just one that, do you have a collaboration of yours that's, your favorite?
From back in the day or from recently?
Anywhere, yeah. If you just have any.
I like the track I did with Smithy.
Yeah, okay.
Full street track. It's about, probably the old me with the drug dealing and the drug using, but I like I like the patterns on that. I like the way it rhymes. I just like the way that all came together. That just spilled out of me. The content is angry and negative. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? But I like this. I guess how symmetrical the rhyme patterns were, and the choice of words. So I often like rap songs for a different reason. I like that for the patterns. I like that for the content. I like that for the humour. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Sometimes, the content isn't what you like. You just like how something sounds. That's probably where you get a lot more people doing that now. They like how something sounds, maybe aren't as concerned as with what's in it, which is cool. Like, we have people who sound good, but maybe their content isn't, they don't actually have a lot of substance. There's a lot of there's verses that I love from even bigger artists, people even just like Eminem, 50 Cent or whatever, but it's not a verse that you would say to someone, oh, I felt like that was really full of substance, that verse. Sometimes it just sounds good. You know what I mean? But then you have the other one.
Well, mate, those tracks, they're purely lyrical.
Mm. Yeah.
So they showcase skill and punchlines and that kind of thing. But then you have songs that are with a message, you know what I mean? I think you've got to have both.
Mm.
The one,
you do, yeah.
You'll
be well-rounded.
You'll hear that on the next record. There's songs that are it's just a rap song, you know what I mean? There's no deep and meaningful message, like I've got a song called Casanova. I've never really been much of a ladies' man, so the hook on it is this chick singing Casanova, and my hook is not me, a ladies' man, that ain't something that I've ever been. Just a fellow who's trying to elevate and make a better scene. Night tripper man, there's no confusion. Staying in my lane, I ain't disillusioned, just the man on the mic who wants to make a contribution. And then that's the chorus hook. But all the verses is just bars on bars. It's just punchlines and fun. You got to have those light-hearted tracks, and you need to break your live setup with those too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Otherwise, people come out to be entertained and party, and all they fucking hear about is COVID and fucking and
Crypto.
and crypto and all this fucking, all this stuff. I guess all the societal stuff, and then the fun gets lost. You know what I mean? So I think this Casanova track's a real fun one.
Yeah.
You got to have the fun ones. You got to have the serious ones. You got to have the angry ones. You got to have the nice ones. I'm just trying to, on Chronicle, I tried to showcase variety.
I think you did pretty well. I think it was a pretty good example of that. I think definitely. And, it's cool as well. I think that you get the variety of that throughout it. But then also I felt like you were really, I like the distribution of collaborations. I felt like there was a really appropriate amount. Sometimes people go a bit crazy. Sometimes I feel like there's almost a little bit too many. Sometimes there's only
It's
like
not
one.
a record.
Yeah. Oh, it's not. But what I mean is,
It feels like a posse record.
Yeah. I think it's okay. I think people can do whatever they want. It's their music, but it's just one of those things where I felt like the distribution was healthy. I felt like you got enough of yourself, but then the collabs were refreshing because obviously you had the kind of crew on one track as well. I like the collab with Draft. I think that was a good song. I feel like you guys do you only have like one other song together where it's just you and him?
No, that's the only song.
I was going to say, I don't think
that's
you had.
the only one.
Yeah. So that was interesting to hear because I felt like when I was listening to it, I was like, I feel like I couldn't really picture a song where it was just you two. You've obviously been on plenty together.
That's a really fun song.
Yeah.
There's no serious shit on that.
No,
it's all me going, walking through the mall, rocking my tracksuit, socks and thong. It's about me being a slob.
Yeah. No, it was
Surf
good.
bum walking through the mall,
Yeah. It sounded good.
With me Rasta beanie on and, it was just a fun track. It was so fun. I want to tap into more of that fun, and people have fun on the dance floor, a live show when you're doing those tracks. Downside make really good music to dance to. It was really prominent last night. My music, everyone was into it. They enjoyed the set. They loved it. Omax too, but when Downside came on, there was mega amounts of chicks dancing, and that's the way their beats are, the way it syncopates, fire it up, and songs like that. I don't really make music you can dance to, I make music you can get angry to. So,
yet. You don't make it yet.
Not yet.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to, like I said, tap into the humour, tap into the fun, and tap into the positivity,
I love it. I reckon we're going to see more of it, man.
Yeah, I just got to get a few more things off my chest. They better not throw another fucking virus in because then that'll make me angry again.
I reckon we just we just ignore them too much now. Even when you see them on the news, the whole comment section is just people going, yeah, whatever. People are smarter to it now. So I think but it is a weird place to be in. If it did happen again, that was such a strange time, where the whole world was connected in something happening. Even motherfuckers in Antarctica had it. And you were like, Jesus Christ,
it's crazy.
It was wild. I want to take this opportunity to do something. I haven't done this before, and I reckon it'll be pretty fun. And I kind of just sort of putting you on the spot, but I'm interested, right? So for this little segment, don't worry, I'll turn your headphones down. I'll get you to chuck these on. Oh, yeah, no, we can break the fourth wall. Rose, can you please get Matty some water? And also, you could do me a favor and just flick that door. I just forgot it was open. Oh, you locked it. Oh, Rose is onto it. Thank you very much, Rose. All right, so I'll get you to chuck the headphones on, man. I'll turn it.
What are we doing? What's the challenge?
So this is I don't have a name for it. It'd be cool if I had a name for it, but I don't. It's more. Am I still too loud on your end? Or is that better?
Okay, then that's all right.
That's good.
It's pretty loud.
Pretty loud. Good now. Yep. So for this, it's almost like a bit of trivia, right? So I love it when a line sticks with me, and it's always fun when you speak to someone who's made so many songs or they've been around so many people. I mean, you and SBX. There's I don't even know how many SBX technically songs there would be, but it must be like 900.
I don't even know how many members there are. We lose track of that.
Yeah, there is a few, isn't there? But I've got a couple here, and they're basically lines from anyone. in SBX, right? In the family. So I have decided I've picked 4 here, and I want to see if you can tell me which songs they're from, right?
Or which artist?
Which artists? If you can tell me the song as well, be great. But artist is probably all.
I get an extra point for telling the song.
Absolutely, yeah, 100%. And I've even got a little system I've set up here. So check this out. So if you get it right, you get a little good. And then if you get it wrong, with this one,
Oh, this is like Wheel of Fortune.
I know, right? I'm trying to get on TV, right?
Game show thing.
And I got something for you while you're thinking. I got the Who Wants to Be a
I can't think with that on. Sounds like a Dracula movie.
It's Who Wants to Be a Millionaire for anyone who didn't notice that one. So the first song, all right, this is a good one. I've dug down underground for my pressure, fumes getting you higher than fat kids' blood pressure.
I don't know the line, but I can tell by the style which 2 rappers it would be.
Okay.
It would have to be Grievous or Bit of Belief. That's my guess.
And
I don't know what the song is from.
so I'm going to play it right now, and this is the artist.
Draft.
It was Draft, right?
Yeah, right.
From the song Observe from Power Rider. I'll tell you what, I'm making them hard ones though, because that is
So Pale Rider I haven't really listened to more than a handful of times. It has never been on high rotation, but now, sorry, Paulie, I'm going to grab a CD off you and put it in the 6-stacker and do my homework, buddy.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see what he thinks of that one. I mean, I've always been under the impression that he doesn't love that album, I think. So that's why, like, I've always wanted to get my hands on it, but I know it's not really around anymore. If it ever is around again, I'll have to see if I can hit him up for one. But it's a funny line. We've got another one here. This one is, we're all-time rhymers, they're slanging losers, we're banging producers, coast to coast we produce this.
Oh, I know that one. Bit of Belief?
I'll give you another guess.
No, I don't know. I'm not going to pretend I know.
Well, you might laugh now.
We're all-time rhymes, they're slanging losers. We're banging producers.
Oh, that's me.
Coast to coast, we produce this hip-hop.
What song's that?
One of my favourites, Exposing Them, off Dundee L.
Oh, yeah, that's a beauty. I forgot that I was on Dundee L.
Exposing Them.
Yeah, I forgot about that song. I totally forgot about it. By the way, I've done countless verses. I forgot what it is.
Oh, I just had to
Does
put one of
Spike
yours.
be on that one?
Yeah, he does the chorus because it's Exposing Them. Who you exposing? He does the chorus and
Yeah, that was
Daz
fun.
on it. Yeah.
Hey, we were all in a cypher situation when we recorded that.
Really?
Remember yet the question you asked before about did you all come in rooms together? We all sat in the room and wrote that together.
Sick.
So that was one of those songs that was made in that fashion with that process.
That's cool, man. That's what that's so. Oh yeah, so in person with Bias, that was back then. So he was over for that. You didn't send it.
He was over, yeah. He did a show and we all went round, I think it was Disaster's place, and we all had the pens and paper out because we weren't writing notes on iPhones back then. I think my phone was a Nokia.
Yeah, it would have taken you about 2 years to write that on there.
Oh, yeah, Jesus.
Oh man. All right, we got another one. So this one is, there's 3 city girls in town. We were the gossip. Then one of the locals got his dick stuck in a possum.
Oh, my God.
What a line.
Oh, I don't know it, but I'd say Mr. Grievous, maybe.
Mr. Grievous. All right, let's have a look.
I won't get any of these right now. The boys know I don't listen to their music.
Well, this is, but if I was going to ask anyone's, it had to be these guys. Here we go.
There's 3 city girls in town. We were the gossip. No one of the lawyers
Layla.
stuck in a possum.
Yeah. So that's, I always just honestly found that line hilarious. So I had to point that out. And there is one more. Now, this one more,
I'm not getting the new car on this sale of Century.
you are not getting the new car, but lucky for you, the new car would be my piece of shit, second-hand Hyundai. So you're not losing out much.
All right.
Look, there's some food out there, mate. I'll give you something, all right? I'll find something for you. This is one more. This is the last one, and we've spoken about both these people that are on this song, and this is another line that I just love. So it's funny, when I started this rap biz, the closest thing that came to pussy was cat shit.
I've got no idea.
Got no idea.
Yeah, but it's pretty filthy.
It's filthy. But if you had to guess, because they're
pretty nasty.
SBX, so who do you
I
reckon?
always just think, just Mr. Grievous for me. just says whatever he wants. And Aaron, obviously, Bitter,
Yeah.
they write tracks like, I don't give a fuck. I'm going to say what I want. So I'm going to go with Mr. Grievous,
Mm-hmm.
but I know I probably got it wrong.
Yeah, so that one there was Daz.
The closest thing I came to pussy was cat shit.
Game over with Bias B. So, I reckon
I got 0 out of 5.
it's 4, you got 0 out of 4, but it's okay because, to be honest with you, the backstory to Exposing Them was worth it because I knew it was going to trigger some kind of backstory. And that song, to be honest with you, I chose on purpose because if I knew I chose one of yours, if I chose anything off of Chronica, you would have got it straight away. So I was like, can't do that.
You had to go right back, and all that water's gone under the bridge.
Well, there's no way that
All those brain cells have got lost, and there was no way I was remembering that. But that's a fun song to make.
you wouldn't have played that song in. I mean, did you ever do it live? Probably back then.
No, I think we did it once or something.
Yeah.
A Leadville Hotel,
Yeah. Okay.
maybe.
You don't do anything like that now. Like you don't do any of those old songs ever, like with Downside, or
Nah. I recently went to Nanup Festival and I put one of the new verses off this album, Babylon, and we tacked it onto Less Fortunate, and it fit perfectly.
oh really?
So we did that. I just got up and did a cameo at Nanup Festival
No, sick.
just a few weeks ago, and that was as an excuse to go camping in the bush with all the lads, and have a good time. And
Yeah.
obviously Benny Bajar and his wife were there, and Scotty was there, and heaps of cool people were there.
Yeah, we can
Some great Indigenous artists.
Yeah, that would have been really cool. I feel like the down south shows are probably like when you talked about going to shows again. I feel like I'd love to go to some of the ones down there. It seems like it'd be a really chill. We were just in Dunsborough the other day, and it was just beautiful. It seems like so much more relaxed.
It's amazing.
Yeah, that would be. Do you guys ever done a show in Dunsborough?
I did one at the Beer Farm,
Okay.
which is halfway between Margaret River and Dunsborough,
Mhm.
on Bustle, just off Bustle Highway, and it's a really good venue. And it went off, but I had a punk band there, we had a rock and roll band there, we had me there, we had food vans. I didn't promote it, obviously. I wouldn't organise all that. I just organised hip hop show, but I headlined it, and 450 people came. And the venue said people were just ringing, Matty B, Matty B, Matty B, have you got tickets on the last day? The last day rush. On the day of the show, everyone rings up, can we still get tickets? Can we pay on the door? And it went off.
Wow.
So, yeah, we've done that. And then obviously Downside play at the Settlers Hat Tavern all the time. But the Dunsborough Tavern, not so much. I feel like hip-hop is more accepted down in Margaret River.
I'm not
which is
seeing a
only-
venue either.
It's only half an hour away. But
Mm.
you've got Yelling Up Hill and Eagle Bay. They're very affluent areas. Does that make sense?
How do you mean?
Well, there's a lot of money down there, and there's a lot of old money. And I never really envisaged playing hip hop in Dunsborough or Yelling Up, but in Margaret River, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, okay. I've not actually been to Margaret River, so that's on my list. So I need to get down there. Yeah.
That said, they have had hip hop block parties at the Dunsborough Hotel, but it was mainly DJs just spinning all your classics, like Dr. Dre and Snoop and Tupac and all that kind of 90s hip hop that people like to dance to. But I can't recall any hip hop shows at the Dunsborough Hotel.
Maybe we'll see one in the future.
Maybe.
So with this, I guess this next record being kind of your focus at the moment, and you said the way you write a lot of the time, it'll just spew out of you when you're driving or after a surf or something like that. Do you find that I guess we've talked about this, there's like a sense of urgency because you feel like you want to make up for making music, but do you find there's like a line where you have to stop yourself from rushing things? Do you ever feel like sometimes
I'm not hurrying anything.
you're not rushing anything?
No.
You don't feel like you want to try to get more out?
I'm not trying to force any creativity at all.
Yeah.
I've already written most of Babylon.
Really?
Yeah, I've only got a verse or two to write.
Yeah, okay.
So it's all written down. So I write something, what I call a draft, then I go back in and I drill it, and then I change things, then I record it, then I listen to the demo. I told you the process before.
Mm-hmm.
So there's 5 songs or 6 songs on the done pile now, but there's 6 that I reckon 4 are written, and then the others will be collab tracks, and hip-hop tracks are only 2 verses long now. So technically I've got 2 verses to write.
Yeah, okay. Are you
Yeah.
doing any side projects? Like, do you want to kind of collab with some other guys and get on their projects too?
Oh, it's if someone invites you to go on their record, you go on it. But you don't ask people, can I go on your record?
Of course,
That's
yeah.
not how it works. It's like asking someone, can I come around your house for dinner?
Yeah, it's a bit strange. Yeah.
It's this, you know?
Have you been on any ones like this year or last year?
No one wants me on their record.
Oh, I doubt that, mate. They probably don't think you'll say yes. You know what I mean? That's probably, a lot of people.
But I went on, I do sell verses to young guys.
Yep.
So the process is, so I will do a verse, but I get them checked out by Rob Shaker because everyone goes to Rob Shaker. He records all the young up and comers. So if they approach me, I'll just go, do you know this guy? Which I know he does. Do you think he's a good rapper? These are the three questions I ask. Do you think it's okay for me to do a track with him? Or will I do myself a disservice by doing it? And if Rob says, no, he's a great guy, he's a good rapper, I like what he does, then I'll do it. And I'll charge good money for it. You know what I mean?
And is there anyone like with the new crew? Obviously, you had Smithy on a track and stuff like that. Is there anyone that's caught your attention from the new school? Like considering your kind of
like Smithy, mate. Smithy's great. He's from Cronulla, just down the road here.
Yeah,
he's so street. He's I love what he does. His patterns, his style. He's a great guy. He's a family man. I really like his mate LG. They rap really good. Mike Midas is pretty good. There's heaps of up and comers. There's and AZZ from Mandurah down the road. He goes pretty good. You know what I mean? There's lots of young guys. I think most of them rap better than me. You know what I mean?
They probably wouldn't think so though.
And so I think there's much I can learn from the young fellas, you know, and I just try to be a sponge and learn something from every little track I listen to. But definitely there's a heap of rap out there where you put it on and this is going to sound horrible. Within 3 bars, I'm like, turn that off. I don't want to listen to that.
Like Australian rap or just
yeah,
generally?
There's heaps of shit rappers out there.
Oh yeah, there definitely is. Yeah,
just trying to do something. They don't have rhythm. They don't have flow. They don't understand music. They can't play instruments. You know what I mean? You've got to have some sense of rhythm and music to be a recording artist. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. What made you kind of start? Because obviously what year did you sign to OBS Records?
I only signed a distro deal with them, and it was a verbal handshake with Shazlik.
Okay.
4 Pegs owned it.
Really?
And he just said, we'll just put my label on it and I'll help you with costs and we'll distribute it for you. So it was always my copyright. Everything's always been B-Style Entertainment. And it was just a little distro deal I cut with Shaz because I was hanging with him and Bias and Brad Strutt in Paran and partying. And it was like, this is a good way to get Courageous LP on vinyl because I had no money to press vinyl. So he just said, I'll put the pressing up and this is your bit and that's my bit and you still have your copyright. It was just a good way of getting it on that other medium. You know what I mean? And then from then on, I funded everything and I went with this Shogun distributor for a while. He disappeared off the face of the earth. Still has boxes full of my CDs. He never returned. And I mean, there was, people coming in and out of the game, you know what I mean?
Mm.
And now, once that happened with Shogun, I just said, well, from now on, I'll just do everything myself. But Scott said something about getting an electronic distribution deal with one of the bigger record companies on the East Coast. But I wouldn't even know how to go about it.
Yeah, it's
like
different world now, I suppose. It's
yeah. But definitely, like Paulie and Scott will encourage me to do things. You can lead the horse to water, but you can't make it drink. There's something about just doing everything on my own label. Hey, if you can sell all your vinyls on a pre-sale and travel around the country a bit and cover costs and make a bit on top on a few hoods and T-shirts. Like I said, I got no misconceptions about blowing up. You know what I mean? I'm looking at what I can put in and it's just got to cover itself,
Is there anything you haven't done musically that you'd like to do? Obviously, you've got some releases planned, but is there anything that you've always or you've maybe recently had in your head more? Someone you want to work with, a video you want to do, a concept, somewhere you want to play maybe?
Something like, Well, I really like dance hall music, which is that genre of Damian Marley, Yellow Man, Sizzler Kalungi. It's kind of reggae-fied rap. I mean, like I said, if I could make my music positive, and I don't know if, but then it's such a hard thing. Like I want to reggae-fy my music, but then I love boom bap beats. I love Vinnie Paz style beats. I love being angry. I don't know if that will ever happen. Maybe that will be a side project. Myself with a dub reggae band, rhyming double time over it. It'd be good to play some festivals at 7 o'clock at night and get home in time for dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm old, man. I'm 51. I want to go to bed early. I want to go surfing in the morning.
I said this the other night. I said, why don't they do hip-hop gigs during the day? They never really, I suppose back when they had festivals, that's probably the only time, right? They're always on pretty late, because they're at pubs and things like that.
But playing outdoors at 7 o'clock at night's the best.
That's
He's done and dusted, and it's great and everyone's happy.
I don't love being inside. I'm not a huge fan of the crampiness of it. I love the outdoors. Yeah.
So I'm huge into reggae, huge into dance hall. Lived in South America, Latin America for 7 months. Lived in Mexico for 2.5 months, and Peru for 4.5 months. And all the core reggae groups that I would never come to Australia. I got to see Alpha Blondie and I got to see Groundation. And Alpha Blondie was inside and I hated it. The sound was horrible. Groundation played at the big in Lima in Peru at the big, like their equivalent of Gloucester Park, like a big horse arena in the middle, and it was awesome. It was so good.
Yeah.
I want to make music that I can play outdoors.
Reggae music.
But rapping.
But rap reggae, mate.
Rapping over reggae beats. Full band with trumpets and girls singing and me rapping and everyone loving one another and having a good time and getting home in time for dinner and getting up for the early surf. That's fairy tale for me.
We reckon you'd have a catchy name though, because it's the group, Matty B and the B Styles or something.
I don't know, whatever it is, Matty B and the Positive Vibrations. There's so many words. There's so many. I mean, the reggae genre, it's pretty easy to come up with a name for the band. You know what I mean?
That'd be the easiest bit. Yeah.
But I'd like to just call it Matty B and then have the usual. And then people listen to be good to sneak it in. So 1 reggae track on Chronica. There's 2 on Babylon. So you know how they sneak laws in and all of a sudden we're living in a fascist society?
Yeah.
Like they pass bills?
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing with the reggaeification process.
And one day
they'll listen to the record and they won't even notice, wow, every beat was a reggae beat. So if I could sneak it in there.
This podcast is sponsored by PedTest Australia. If you plan on using or are currently using performance-enhancing drugs, it is very important that you make sure you are doing so, having them been tested before you use them or while you are using them to make sure that you take care of your health. And you can also recommend that the people around you do so as well. Go to PedTest Australia on Instagram to find out more about the details on how you can test your current performance-enhancing drugs that you are using, or you can find out more about testing other compounds or things that you are putting in your body if you would like to make sure that you take care of your health.
So who do you mainly like, if you're going to go to someone for beats for that, obviously it could be multiple people, but is that when you'd work more so with Daz, or you like, is there someone that you think would
They're all capable of doing it, but the 2 beats on Babylon that are reggae, one song called Gunja Smuggler and one called Navigating Babylon, both made by Optimus. Amazing. And AI chorus hook.
AI.
You're not paying for that. You're not getting sued for that.
AI chorus or good?
AI chorus hook. There's one beat on there. It's phenomenal.
Wow. I didn't know that was much of a thing. I've seen the thing now you can remix your whole song to make it sound different with AI, but a chorus hook, that would, I used to suck at choruses. That would have really helped me.
Because I'm like, they gave me the beat and I said, who sung the hook? And they just go, it's AI, Matty. I'm like, so what? We're in the clear? Yeah, we're in the clear. No worries.
I have heard of that, getting some people, kind of screwing some people around before, like they used a sample and then certain songs. And I think it might have happened on someone's records or something, maybe one of drafts or something like that. I heard there was a song that got done because of a sample or something like that. And then Spotify takes it away and all this annoying shit happens.
But that won't, I'm with DistroKid You obviously know what
Yeah,
DistroKid
DistroKid,
is.
yeah.
They check all that for you before they upload it. So you upload it, and then it goes through an approval process.
Yeah.
So by the time it's actually hit the internet, you know you're in the clear because they've gone through it and said, "Yep, this song clear." And they send you an email for every song. Everyone who makes hip hop knows this, but this is for the people who haven't made a record. Your song is now cleared for release. Your song and it's one email per song.
Yeah, okay.
So then you know by the time people are actually listening to it on their Spotify, you've already covered your ass, you know?
Yeah, that sounds like the way to do it. What about I was just thinking just then, because the Chronica, you've changed the Matty B logo you were using for a long time. You had like the old hand styles on the old record. Who did the original hand styles?
Oh. Which record do you mean?
So you've got it up there. For the Simple But Effective has the Matty
That
B
was a
hand.
guy called DCE from Brisbane, was a graph writer. He's a really good producer. He's a really good DJ, battle DJ, and he's really good with those elements of hip hop. And I recorded this whole record in his studio in Queensland.
Yeah,
I tracked all my vocals at his house. And I knew he was a mad graph writer, so I said, "Oh, well, you might as well do the cover art." It was just too easy to work in one space with one person. It's convenient, you know, and he did an awesome job.
Yeah,
He's a great guy. He's a family man. I don't know whether he's touching much hip hop. Such a nice guy and such a nice house to go around to and make music. You know what I mean? Positive environment. Nice people, you know?
Yeah, okay. There's some interesting, like, I guess, stories behind a lot of these things too. Like, you know, it's always interesting to hear where you recorded it, who you were with, some of the older stuff, you know what I mean? All that sort of stuff. And there's stories behind some of these other tracks. For me, I actually wanted to ask you about Swan Song, one off Clandestine's album, you know, the massive SBX posse cut that you were on.
Yep.
I always found it interesting because of how your verse sounds. And I always wanted to ask you if you remember where you recorded that, because you clearly obviously are all recording in different places, but yours has a sound to it. And I couldn't help but think, where's it? Yours sounds almost like you've recorded it, not through a phone, but like
like in the back shed with a ghetto blaster or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think I recorded that at someone's house in Queensland,
Okay.
and I can't remember whose house that might be.
Yeah, because I remember.
I definitely recorded that in Queensland and then sent it home. And it could just be that the boys were over there and they had some monitor speakers and a laptop and a condenser mic, and they might have just set up wherever they were staying. I can't remember where I recorded the Swan Song.
Yeah, interesting.
But there was, yeah. I used to think I had to go somewhere because I don't understand the technical side of it. I raise funds, put deals together, and I write poetry and I play instruments, and that's the extent. I can't even load up Ableton. I'm like, what's that thing do? You know what I mean? And the boys like, just don't ask questions. It will sound good at the end. Don't worry about it. But no, they're not like that. They usually explain it to me and it goes in one ear and out the other, to be more precise. So I wouldn't know where the Swan Song got recorded, but I'm sure someone knows who recorded me.
Yeah,
who's got better memory than me.
We keep digging. I'll dig through as many. It depends on who's willing to come on, and it's not everyone's jam. I understand that, so we'll see. I'll try to find out the answer, because I'm really curious. I always remembered hearing it and could tell. I was like, I wonder where he's recorded this, because
I don't know what I did yesterday, bro. You asking me what I did 16 years ago? I had no idea.
That's fair enough. I do understand that. Yeah, that's fair enough. Is there anyone that you haven't worked with that you want to in the future before you kind of like, you know, you've got like 2 or 3 albums that you've already written. So before you finish them, is there anyone that you want to put on them, or is there anyone that you want to work with after that?
There's someone I'd like to work with who I'll never get to work with. Like if I could work with someone from Jamaica like Damian Marley, that would be amazing. That guy's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
He's not going to record with me, you know what I mean? Never know. You know, people go, if you could record with anyone, who would it be? It would have to be Damian Marley. You know what I mean? But that's a pipe dream, you know what I mean? He's never going to know who I am.
You never know.
He'll never, ever know who I am.
I don't know if you mentioned this already. Have you been to
I
Jamaica?
don't want to be that guy setting my track going, hey, Damien, I'm a white guy from Perth, or from Dunsborough, and yelling up, here's my song. Do you want to do a track together? He's not even, his people are going to like, it's not even going to reach him. He hires someone to filter out people like me. You know what I mean?
Probably, yeah. Have you been to Jamaica though? Or did you mention that? Or
Well,
have you been to Jamaica?
Nah.
No, yeah. Did you ever want to go there?
Yeah, it'd be good.
Be cool to see what it's like and what music's like there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, it's interesting, man. Hearing the direction that you want to head in, and
Reggae healed me with the surfing,
Yeah.
and the drug addiction, and that. Like listening to reggae and going surfing, and having 3 square meals and getting to bed early. That was a part of my addiction healing process and my therapy. So that's why I'm so connected to reggae. It was funny when I did the Chronica launch in Melbourne. I said, Checkmate organised. I said, can we have a bit of red, green, and gold on the poster? He goes, but you're a Rasta and I'm not a Rasta. I said, no, I'm not a Rasta, because Checkers is a real good mate. I said, I'm just trying to bring a little bit of that flavour to my hip hop. You know what I mean? Because I love that style of music. So I'm not trying to ever say I'm a Rasta. You know what I mean? Rastas don't drink alcohol. They don't eat, a lot of them don't eat meat. They live this really pure life. You know what I mean? I drink alcohol. I eat everything. You know, I could never be a Rasta. You know what I mean?
you just like the music, obviously.
I love the music. I love the message of unity. I love the raising issues of social injustice and social commentary. And I love the music, the way it sounds, the way it fits in with your human biorhythm and how relaxing it is and how nice it is. You know what I mean?
Mm.
I really enjoy reggae and dancehall music. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like I said, it's interesting hearing the inspirations, I guess, as well, because it probably is a lot different from when you were younger to where it is now, right? Like when you started Australian hip hop, it was pretty different. You know what I mean? You were probably inspired by different people.
Yeah, and down the coast, I listen to rock and roll. I listen to bands like Thin Lizzy, Deep Purple, classic rock music, Dire Straits, because all my old mates down there who surf are rock guys. And I love rock and roll. I like drumming, playing rock and roll drums. But I'm not good enough on instruments to be a career musician on any of the instruments I play. But I'm really good with, I feel like rapping is my strength. So I play to my strengths. Like I'm a wordsmith, you know what I mean?
Mm.
So it's kind of like being on a footy team going, I want to play full forward and kick all the goals. And the coach is going, but you're really good in the back line and you're not tall enough to win the mark. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not good enough to play instruments. But I feel like if I keep practicing at rap, one day I'll get good enough to be a good rapper. Does that make sense?
We've got the enthusiasm, and I certainly think you're good enough, mate, which is why we're sitting here.
Yeah.
I've always, you know what I mean? Like, we used to crank all the music back in the day, and I'm glad that you're back into it, and to me, it's good. It's like, I liked Chronica. I think that, you know, as I said, it had a really healthy structure to how many people were on it, the topics that you went over, you know what I mean? I think that you did have some fun. I think you did talk about some serious stuff. You had some old school guys in there, but then you even had Smithy on there as a new school guy. Like, to me, it had kind of everything that I would expect out of an Australian hip hop album now. That intrigues me. You know what I mean? If to me, it's like, it's really hard, right? A lot of people...
Smithy wasn't on that record.
Sorry, Smithy wasn't on that record, but you did it.
A rap for his record.
I won on his
EP.
record,
His EP.
Yeah, but that I guess I mean the new stuff in general, you know, like the new, because I listened to Chronica, but then I had to, for me, it was just about trying to find everything I could of the recent stuff, because I've heard the Courageous LP plenty of times, but the new stuff, I haven't heard it in the same rotation. A lot of that stuff, like I said, would get put on when even we were drinking, there'd be parties and stuff, and it ingrains itself in you differently because you've heard it so much in the background and stuff like that, where newer stuff, I listen to music differently now to how I used to. Yeah. It's with headphones, or I'm in my car, or it's back then it was a lot more, you know, what it was like, be at parties and rapping lyrics.
Messing about, having a bit of fun.
We absorbed it differently, you know, and that's kind of what you've mentioned with the phones, you know, if people are scrolling and stuff like that as well, people are absorbing music differently, and it's being distributed to you in a different way. Back is the same as when people would get a vinyl and put it on a vinyl player and sit and listen to a vinyl. That doesn't really happen now. People do it, but it's not how most people experience music. So I'm excited to just actually like chuck the vinyl on, because for a start, you always listen to the full way through. Yeah. Normally, a lot of albums, you go on Spotify, you get the album, you just pick the song that you like the look of. You know, where at vinyl,
Yeah.
you're just going to go straight to start to finish. And that's when you
let the needle go across.
Well, that's when you truly experience the release, I feel like. So I feel like I want to do that again. And with Simple But Effective, I've heard plenty of songs from it, but then I'm like, well, but I've never heard it start to finish because that's not how I listen to it.
Yeah.
So it'll be cool to do that, you know? And yeah, I think it's good just to making vinyl.
Can I mention something about the algorithm and social networking?
Sure.
So you talk about, you've heard Chronica, and I'm stoked. I'm so happy you heard it, Jake, because so many people write to me. They see something comes on their feed. I still get written today, "Hi, Matty. I listened to your music back in the day. I love Fridays. I had no idea that you were back rapping." Then I write back to them, "Have you heard Chronica?" "No, I haven't heard Chronica, but I think Fridays is the best song." Now, I get that a lot. The algorithm, you think everyone's looking and everyone knows you brought out a record. No one's heard it.
Yeah.
It's not reaching people, bro. And like, I went to the Brisbane launch and rapped all the stuff off Chronica, and everyone looked at me blank-faced because they couldn't sing along with the lyrics. And then as soon as I did Fridays, everyone joined in and had a good old hoedown. It's not a tough pill to swallow, but you kind of scratch your head going, how do I get people to listen to the new shit? How do I live Fridays down and get people to listen to Chronica? And so many people go, "Man, Matty, I loved your music back in the day. I love Fridays. I love Courageous. I love Accents. You know, have you heard Chronica?" "No, man, didn't even know it existed."
Yeah.
So that's what you see those ads on Insta where they try and get you in and go, "Are you just releasing your music to avoid? Come and get electronic distribution with us," which is just another fucking scam. Every ad on Instagram is a hustle. You know what I mean?
Well, Instagram's a business, right? So
It's the playground of scammers and hustlers. You know what I mean?
Well, I want to point out, like, one of the things you said there, it's funny, right? Because Fridays, for example, and you would know this, like, sometimes there'll be a YouTube video and it will be Fridays by Matty B, 520,000 followers of it. It's by some random account that's posted it or something like that, right? And it's funny that they listen to that, right? And they know where that is and they can go and get that. But you put Chronica on fucking Spotify, YouTube, you chuck it on every single thing.
It's on every platform.
But for them to go and find that one song, they've got to know exactly what it's called and go and find it on YouTube. But it's
and
like
there's one other thing. There's a dude in America called Matty B Raps.
Yeah, the kid.
Well, he's growing up now. He's a big boy now.
Does he?
But here's the thing. He's on a major label.
Yeah.
And they pay for search engine optimization.
Oh, yeah.
Mate, you can type Matty B in and the whole screen is just filled with his garbage.
Fucking yeah. I remember hearing this.
Do you know what I mean? And so when I tell people, type in Matty B Chronica when I'm doing my word of mouth at surf school or wherever I'm out socialising. But it's phenomenal the people who've never heard it. And I'll put Babylon out and no one will hear that. No, you know, but they know Fridays, you know what I mean?
Hey man, at least
and I'm not frustrated. That sort of thing would frustrate me as a young man, but at my age I'm like, if I've got my core fans that, and I can go down the list of all 3 releases I've done on vinyl and it's all the same people that buy doubles or singles. Do you know what I mean? If I can just retain my core crew and I can press 200 vinyls and only have 5 left for friends and family or 10, man, I'm happy.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
You can't let the algorithm frustrate you. You can't let the internet frustrate you because you'll give up in the end. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You'll give up. You'll let it wear you down. You can't let that shit wear you down. Good news, these little reels I'm doing with Shaker, one just reached 18,000 views.
Oh, nice.
650 likes. I've never had that on a film clip.
Yeah, that's true.
Because they're just a minute long and people get it on the doom scroll. You know what I mean? We were chatting with people about how doing a reel in the studio with the pop screen and the headphones costs nothing compared to the production of a film clip and you reach more people.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Me and Josh talked about this the other day, the whole like where people will grab 15 seconds of their song and just record like 100 different videos to that exact same thing over and over again and post it every single day. And that stuff gets people.
Yeah, like that Nightmare rapper, Tekashi 6ix9ine.
Oh, yeah.
He invented the short vid.
Fucking Look,
You
I
know
try
what
not
I
to
mean?
hate on people, but I cannot stand that shit. I'm
Oh,
really
there's heaps of it. There's heaps of garbage out there.
bad, isn't it? Yeah, it's really bad. But it's funny. I think that's where, the Australian stuff it doesn't have the shininess to it, so people don't realize. But then once they get into it,
Hasn't he got
hear
the
it.
gold chains and the big jewels and the Lambos and the American kids, and everyone's so obsessed with being rich and not working, and then Insta it comes through the feed. Do you want to quit your job as a tradie and travel the world like me and learn how to do affiliate marketing? And honestly, dude, like
it's hectic.
it's hectic out there, you know? Like there's so much poison going in the brains of people.
Yeah.
Write a political track or a track with a social message, it falls on deaf ears. So to give you an example, the reel that got 18,000 views is we were talking about doing a track where it's just bars, it's just battle flows, and you're just showcasing skill. There's no message. That's the one that got 18,000 views. Then I did another one for Gunja Smuggler, which is about if I hypothetically grow a whole lot of weed and sell it, you'll throw me in the jail and incarcerate me. But Big Pharma can grow as much weed and distribute as much weed as they want. That's what Gunja Smuggler's about. It's about Big Pharma being the new Gunja Smuggler. That got 3,000 views. Do you know what I mean? So you send something with a message, it doesn't reach nobody. You get up there and have fun and say, you know, like there's a line in straight battle, like, you know, straight battle shit, and it reaches people. But I don't know if it's the beat, the music. I mean, Bit of Belief said some really cool things. He's one of my favourite artists, but he's also a good mate. And what I like what he said about the algorithm, he goes, if your music is good enough, it will do the legwork for you. And I think that's the truest thing I've ever heard. So if I'm going to look in the mirror and be realistic, my music's not good enough yet. Or you could be a negative person and go, everyone's fucking morons. Why aren't they listening to my music? That's a pretty egotistical, arrogant way to think. Do you know what I mean? So you've just got to keep punching it out. Like I said, if 200 people buy the vinyls, I run out of hoodies and T-shirts. It's a good relief, and I get to go to some capital cities and not fork out my own money and make $1,000 on the weekend I'm there. I'm stoked, mate. You know what I mean?
Great result, yeah.
When I did the Melbourne show, I did the show on the Friday night. I went to the footy at the MCG on the Saturday, and I surfed the wave pool on the Sunday. Then I got on a plane and came home, and I got paid $1,000 to do that once I worked out the merch and because promoters will give you a hotel plus flights plus whatever, a flat fee. And they're the best deals to cut. Then it's up to you to hustle your merch. You know what I mean? So I just see them as little free holidays to the East Coast. I did one to the Goldie and got to go surfing. When I did the Brisbane launch for Chronica and I jumped on Omax gig on the Gold Coast. If I'm getting free holidays and mate, at tax time, you write off everything. You get a meal while you're on the East Coast, it's a write-off. I'm here for work. They don't know you're there surfing.
Well, you are there for work as well, kind of, right?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just, you know.
Oh, look,
so
I'm not going to say too much.
I'm
a PT, but
I'm having
I
great. If I can keep money out of the tax man, out of his pocket, and keep it in mine, and make music and see the country and hang out with my friends, buy speed, the Brad Struts, checkmates, mates up in Briz, you know, like Big Odie, who owns the graffiti shop there, Crush City. It's just nice connecting with the old heads and going for a visit.
Yeah, it would be.
And covering costs with a bit on top.
No, I know what you're saying.
The algorithm could kill your spirit if you've obsessed on social media and the algorithm. It gets minimally frustrating that no one's heard Chronica. Oh, but I love Fridays. You know what I mean? You know, but you can't let that frustration creep in because you'll stop making music.
At least they love Fridays as well, right?
Because what you're talking about is the result or the outcome. That's not... You're a personal trainer. If people focus on the result and the outcome, and that's to lose 30 kilos because they're chubby like me, if they don't lose 5 quickly, they could give up, right? They might, oh, no, I'm not coming anymore. It's too hard. The algorithm's the same thing. You can't focus on what you're getting back. You can only focus on what you're putting into the music and have fun with it and visit your friends on the East Coast and get a free holiday and surf the wave pool and go to the MCG, watch the footy, be rich in live experience and write it all off on tax. You know what I mean?
Mate, this will be a tax write-off. I just wanted to meet you. There you go. We just happened to film it at the same time.
But you know, like, the bloody algorithm. You could drive yourself crazy worrying and thinking about the algorithm. Maybe I should write a song, going algorithm crazy, like crypto crazy. You know?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I'm sure there's like a way of wordplay there, algorithm, rhyme. I don't know. I'm sure you can fit it in.
Mate, I've got to put my head down and think about something by dinner time tonight. But
I'm sure you will.
But you know, I'm not writing songs today. I'm hungover. I've been in a show.
Yeah. Well, enjoy it. Just enjoy the. Yeah.
I've lost my voice. That's why I'm not rapping for you guys today.
That's all right.
Because I just don't have the strength and power.
We'll get you next time, mate. Absolutely.
Next time.
Yeah. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I really love hearing the backstory. I love hearing what's going to happen. That's probably the thing I'm going to take away from the conversation. I love to hear how ambitious you are and how motivated you are to make more music, because that's really what this is about for me. Because I think that, as we talked before about contribution, my contribution is, I think that the coverage of Australian hip hop is something that I would love to be able. When someone asked me about this project and they said, "Oh, what would you want it to be?" Because I started doing podcasts about a lot of other stuff. I said I would love to be able to have a DVD, which we don't even need anymore, but I'd probably still get them printed because I like it. That's just, season 1 of this, and it's got, I do 10 of these, and Matty B's episode 2, and then we got all this stuff like that. And I like to think I could travel back to when I was 15 and give that to my 15-year-old self. My 15-year-old self would watch that shit on fucking repeat till this doesn't work. Because that's what I was like, man. I listened to all those songs over and over again. I watched the music videos 100 times. I used to fucking download them and watch them on USBs and, show everybody, and we'd listen. It was all I listened to. So to me, I think Australian hip hop is in a healthier place than it's been. And it's good to see that, you're striving to make more music and you've got a vinyl, man, from 2 years ago, and then Babylon will come out and it'll be on vinyl, and I love that that's staying alive.
I just want to make records, and being creative really feeds my soul. It feeds my soul the same way riding waves and coaching people to ride waves does. It's really nourishing for me in a totally non-material way, in an exchange of human positive energy way. Like doing the show last night, everyone loved it. Everyone comes up, says nice things, and you chat with people and they're all lovely. And this is my kid. He's wearing the Chronica shirt and he's 3 and it's a XXL and he looks like he's wearing a dress. That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
It's an exchange of positive energy. You're feeding your soul. You're being creative. You know what I mean? All that other shit, whether it hits the algorithm and goes viral or whether you blow up and fucking roll around in a Lamborghini and act like a fuckwit like Jack Doherty or one of these people online, forget about it. Yeah. You know what I mean?
But that's not human connection anyway, right?
That's not human connection, mate. And that's not why you make music. You make music because it's lyrical self-expression, therapy. That's what Scott's doing in the prisons with all the brothers and everyone who's incarcerated. He's using hip-hop to help them heal and to rehabilitate them so they build self-esteem, and then work placement after, juvenile prison, and then recording their own music. Do you know what I mean? Gives people purpose. It gives them something to strive for, something creative, something that you can hold in your hand and say, it's mine. That's why all the algorithm stuff, you can't hold that in your hand. You can hold it. I love a vinyl record. I love sitting there and there's a Matty B vinyl, a hoodie and a T-shirt all on the table. I'm like, these are my products. I made this with my own hands. Does that make sense?
100%. I got them now. I keep them up there and they look fucking cool. So, I don't even want to take them out the packet, mate. I know what you're saying. I think, like I said, I think it's great that you're still doing it. And it's,
I just want to cling to those aesthetics,
Well, why not?
Yeah,
Just because the world has gone in a different direction doesn't mean we.
Yeah.
So, man, I love it. Is it like, I always say to people before we go, like, is there a message that you have for anyone's listener or anyone that you want to shout out before you go about, anyone that you kind of want to give props to, or any message you want to leave with?
I just want to thank Syllabolics and the Psych Ward crew for all that help they give me and letting me live down the coast in a saltwater bubble and letting me burst that bubble and come up and do hip hop and them being so helpful. And like, I got a show coming up. Do you mind if I plug a show?
Do it.
26th of April. The promoter's OMAC. We got a great lineup of young artists. We got Mike Midas, AZZ, Bipolar. It's going to be a great show. And it's those relationships and those people who are loyal to me that offer me these gigs, like the OMACs, the Scotties, the Rob Shakers. I just want to say thank you to everyone that's got around me and is rallying around the second coming of me making music. I'm so grateful and blessed for that. I can't thank them enough. And thank you for getting me in here and letting me speak my mind and talk from my heart, you know?
I appreciate your time, mate. Like I said,
It's good to come in and just pour it out, you know?
Well, I think it's a side that, you say a lot in your music, so people obviously get to connect with you through that. But I just think that this is something that I like the fact that someone who's listening to your music like I would have back in the day and still will now, but someone who's maybe new to it, I would be trying to find everything, When I really connected with an artist, I wanted to, I'd heard every single one of their songs. If they had an interview, I'd listen to it. And I like that this is, as you said, maybe we can't hold it in our hand, but it's an interview we've had. It's a conversation we've had.
It's awesome.
And someone can listen to it and learn from it. And people can be like, people will probably listen to it and go, fuck, man, this guy's got, I really, really resonate with some of the stuff that he said. And I'm even more excited for his next release. And I like that.
Someone's great grandchildren might hear it.
Oh, man, there's no reason.
It's still out there in the universe. You put it out in the universe. Someone might be 75. I used to go to hip hop shows and I found this old podcast with Jacob and Matty B.
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't trying to say that doing things digitally isn't tangible. That's not what I was trying to say before.
Oh, no, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Every little bit helps. And thank you so much. It's so good to come in here and just let people know what I'm about and what I'm doing. But I think most people have worked it out, what I'm up to.
If you listen to Chronica, we know that you love Fridays, but look, listen to Chronica, and I'll make sure I link it in the comments. But man, look, like I said, I'm really excited for this new record, because knowing that you've got a lot of it done, and after having a conversation about it, I'm just really keen. Like I said, I think Chronica was really well rounded. I'm really glad that you're back into it, and I'm excited for more. And 26th of April, I'm excited for that gig. It's going to be a good gig.
Well, that's good. I hope to see you there.
Absolutely.
I hope you behave yourself that night.
I will make sure.
You've been a good boy lately.
I have just a lemonade and just an enjoyable show is all I need.
Lemon, lime, and bitters.
That's all I need. Thanks, Matty.
Thanks, buddy. Champion.
This podcast is sponsored by Bulk Gym Chalk. Do you struggle to hold onto your deadlifts? If so, it can be very important to make sure that you have good quality chalk and access to that chalk. So go to Bulk Gym Chalk. You can find them on Instagram and get yourself some good quality chalk so that you can make sure that you can train in the gym and get the best out of your training while doing so.